Welcome to another episode of Ask the Zamboni Experts. I'm your host, Doug Peters, and today our guest is Cole Butler, who's Zamboni driver extraordinaire of the Galaxy, as well as the Dallas Stars. Welcome today. Cole, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great today.
Well, we thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about your experience at American Airlines Arena, as well as the Fast Ice product. Can you share with our listeners and us a little bit about yourself and where you grew up?
Well, I grew up here in Dallas-Fort Worth. Didn't really know much about hockey, until really the Stars moved down back in '93. My dad grew up in Michigan, so, I knew about the Red Wings and stuff, but nothing really local here. And then the team moves down, and then come to find out that the team has a farm team up in Michigan where my grandparents live out in Kalamazoo. And so got to watch some minor league hockey and then go see the NHL guys and just fell in love with the sport. So, I didn't never really play when I was a kid. And it's like, all right, well, I'm not going to be a pro. So what's the next best thing? Be a Zamboni driver and, get to be a part of the action in any way I can. And just like the rest of us, we're all rink rats, and that's how we all get started.
So do you need to be schooled? Are you a Dallas Cowboys fan, or being down there in Texas, are you maybe one of the other team's fans?
No, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan for sure. I
Okay,
am
so
diehard Dallas Cowboys. Win or lose, it doesn't matter.
do we need to school you on the fact that Dallas would be minus 4 Super Bowls and 1 Stanley Cup if it wasn't for the great state of Minnesota?
No, we don't need to talk about that. We don't need to go there. We don't need to go there for that. We got our 5 Super Bowls and we got our Stanley Cup, and I believe this team is we're getting close to getting another one. That's for sure. So.
Well, as a former Minnesotan who suffered through the Drew Pearson push-off on Jeff Wright, probably back before you were born, and the Herschel Walker trade, that enabled 4 Super Bowl titles to be won by the Cowboys, I just still hanging on to just a touch of bitterness.
Oh, I bet indeed, yes. Hey, they just love to come down to Texas, and I can't doubt them for that.
No, you can't. And having a father who worked for the Minnesota North Stars, who are now the Dallas Stars, it just shows how giving Minnesotans are, that they're willing to give 4 Super Bowl titles and a Stanley Cup title to the great state of Texas.
Hey, we'll take it. That's for sure.
There you go. Can you tell us and our listeners a little bit about your career and how you ended up at American Airlines Arena?
Well, so I started out, I was playing men's league, beer league hockey at a mall rink here in the Metroplex, and was just looking to make a little part-time money. And I started tying skates and doing just odds and ends at the rink. And then my boss, Tim Kane at the time, said, hey, I think you've got, obviously for what you do, full time. I was a building engineer full time, so I had mechanically engineered kind of background. He said, "Hey, you want to learn how to drive?" And so he gave me the keys, and he initially showed me what it meant to be a Zamboni driver and to put the heart into making ice and making the best ice for whoever. And it didn't matter if it was for the figure skaters or the high school hockey team we had there. I mean, he got me going and, showed me what it took. And so he got hired on down at American Airlines Center, and he then, took another job, and he said, hey, you've got the passion like I have the passion, and I'm going to put your name out there to be my replacement down at the arena, down at the rink. And I went down there and interviewed with Cody, and he said, Tim put in a good word for you, and I think you'd be a good fit down here. And so after that, then I ended up driving professionally for the Stars. And because of Tim, and like I said, his passion that he had for ice, he bestowed it on me to carry that same passion, and I carry that same passion to this day.
The rink that you're at, was that the Galleria, or was it a different mall?
That was Stonebriar Mall in Frisco. it was called the Ice at Stonebriar is where I started at. So, and like I said, I mean, it was your typical mall rink. It was trying to keep the ice as best as you could because, well, the mall didn't want to, they relied on your AC to cool the whole rink, cool the whole mall instead. So it was a great rink to learn about everything and anything with either ice maintenance or keeping up with the machine. Because being in a mall, you can't have propane. So we had an electric machine. So keeping up with the operations of batteries and checking the fluid levels on that and greasing the machine. I mean, blade changes, all that. I mean, that's where I learned everything, on how to do it all. And then going down to, American Airlines Center, Cody just, as big of a mentor he was to me and still is, furthering more my education in ice operations and being a Zamboni driver and, what it takes and, continuing from there. So.
Well, we've had the pleasure of having Cody Bateman, who you talked about, on a podcast. He's a gentleman who I had the opportunity to have a lot of fun experiences with.
Yes,
one
indeed.
was in Columbus, and he's probably talked about that. We got to see Cyndi Lauper live in concert, and if you haven't heard that story, you need to reach out and ask Cody about that one. But that was a good time. What was it like working for Cody all the years that you did? While both of you were at American Airlines prior to him heading up to the Pacific Northwest and now being a member of the Kraken ice team.
It was great. I mean, there are memories that I have with him. There's stuff that I've learned that I never even imagined I could learn. The influence he had on my life, whether, it was on the ice or off the ice, I couldn't put it into enough words. I mean, the guy's one of the greatest guys that I know and one of the greatest guys I look up to. And Cody's a great guy. It was one of those coolest things that when it was his last game, the guy he was driving with, kind of pulled off early so he could take the last lap up the center of the ice. And that was a hard moment because that was, you're seeing a good friend. I'm glad he got the job that he did. You just, a guy, who's been such an influence on your life for such a short time. I mean, you hate to see a friend like that move because, yeah, you could talk to him, but you're not going to see him like like I did. And so, I tell people when you're in the sports world, let alone the hockey world, baseball world, they become your second family. I mean, you spend so many nights a year with people that you get to know them as your family almost. And, working with Cody, like I said, whether it was on or off the ice, just learning everything about ice maintenance or about the machines and how it works even more, especially, because when I got down to the arena, I never dealt with fast ice. And so we had the first version of fast ice system down there. So to learn how that works, I mean, I would pick his brain quite a bit on, well, what does this do? What does that do? And just trying to learn it so I could be a better Zam driver in general.
It's something you talk about when he departed, and I could sense that was emotional having a friend that you're that tight with that picks up and moves on to another opportunity. I moved from Minnesota 34 plus years ago now, and one of the guys that I ran around as a kid at Met Center, where the North Stars first played, Dallas Stars now, was Dave Westby. Did you get the opportunity to have any tutelage from Dave, or had he already passed before you got to American Airlines Arena?
David already passed before I got to American Airlines Center, so he had already passed before I got there. Funny story is, while Cody was cleaning out stuff from his desk, he actually found a video of Westby. I don't remember. I think it was from when he was up in Minnesota before they moved down here, where some player had gotten ejected off the ice or something, and all of a sudden you see Westby take his coat off and he starts fighting this guy. And I mean, it's just the funniest thing ever. I mean, we were just laughing so hard. But from what I, was told about Westby, I mean, just a great guy, very knowledgeable, just as much about ice and a legend indeed. I didn't meet the guy, but a legend for sure. In the show. So
he truly was, and he was a gentleman that when I don't think I'll ever forget the day when I got told that he had passed away. it was like a kick to the gut because it was a connection between him and my father. They worked together for many years at the Met, and Dave continued on after my dad left the work with the North Stars. But Dave, just a real nice, down-to-earth guy. And I've told people a lot that maybe they didn't know about Dave, about how talented of an athlete he was. He had the potential to play Major League Baseball, but unfortunately, when he was younger, he was a little bit goofier. And when he hit one out of the park at the old Met Stadium where the Twins used to play, he decided to run around the bases backwards. And back in that day and age, they didn't. They kind of frowned upon that, and they told him that he wasn't welcome back. But he really was a great guy, and one who wanted to share his knowledge. And I know that he meant an awful lot to Cody and many other people whose paths they crossed. And the Westby family up in the Twin City area were very talented athletes in their day. And there's another family that was up there, the Alm family, and very talented. And it was strangely coincidental that both the youngest family members both passed away of heart attacks with Dave, and then the Alm, he actually died at an ice rink. So what's a typical game day like for you?
Get down there about an hour before game ice. During that time, we're just kind of getting everything set up, put out for the game. And then usually I'll go out and I'll drill the holes out for, the pegs, for the nets for warm-ups. And then typically game ice happens, and after that, get everything cleaned up and get ready for game ice, have a nice meal together. We all sit together. We call it the Last Supper. We try and sit at the Last Supper table because, we're all together and just kind of relaxing before, we go back and we start warm-ups. And then typically during the game, if I'm not driving, I work one of the goal nets. That's typically my role during the game. And then I also work over at the visitor tunnel, working with the ice girls over there that we have clean the ice. So you'll see me stand in the visitor tunnel with the ice girls. And then usually, like I said, if I'm not driving, I'm on one of the goal nets, just, cleaning holes and filling in ruts on the ice. And when I go down there, I'm an open book. I don't care what I do, whatever Max needs me to do, that's what I'll do. Whatever he sees that, is fit for me, and what I need to do, whether I'm driving or working the net, then that's what I do. I mean, we have a superstition down there that if you drive and you win, you keep driving. So right now, I hope Max and I's record of 7 games gets broken this year. So I hope that comes true, because, we've driven for 7 games in a row. So I hope that streak comes to an end this year and somebody can surpass that, because we've got a great team this year. So,
well, it's great to see that you're a good fan, and I might root for them, being that they have ties to Minnesota. But I definitely.
We got one of your good defensemen this year too, so that's even going to be better.
Yeah, well, let's see about that. He is a customer, and it's interesting. His dad placed an order for a machine, and his dad played on the '80 Olympic team, which plug that for Michael Zamboni, because I always find a way to bring up the 1980 U.S. men's gold medal winning hockey team from Lake Placid. And he sent me a deposit check, and I had met him on a few occasions when I was out on the road walking into the rink, and he's always busy doing something. He'd look over his shoulder. What is it that you want? And I said, well, if you just buy a machine, I'll probably stop knocking on your door as often as I am. And unfortunately, he passed away before he got the new machine. And his son, Ryan, sent me the check for the balance when he got the machine. And it's a piece of history. And now there's 3 of that team that are gone. Herb Brooks was the first to go, and Suter, and then Pavlich passed away this year. That was a tough one as well. It's hard when, as I age and I'm getting to dinosaur status, where some of these people who were part of the greatest sports event in my lifetime are now gone. And it's funny, Mike Ramsey played on that team, and he was a senior when I was a sophomore. We went to the same high school, and
Okay.
he's the youngest of that team, and he's now 61, which I just look and go, how in the heck did that happen? Because he was 19 when he was playing in the Olympics. So
Right.
um, pretty amazing. Uh, you talked a little bit about being around and dealing with the older machines that were replaced, I think about 2 seasons ago now.
Yes,
It's
correct.
hard for me to keep track of because of the vid world. But you talked about the different versions of fast ice that you've had to deal with, and it's one thing I've always told our people is I think Cody probably had a better understanding than most of our people do because he's dealt with fast ice for so long. Can you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are with the fast ice system and what you think the improvements, how the ones that were made between the old version and the new one, and what you like about the changes that we made to it?
I think one of the biggest changes I love is just, this is going to sound dumb, but I just like seeing the computer of it. I like to see what psi the water is being put out, what the flow percentage is at, and everything like that. I like to be able to just, as I'm driving, kind of see the gauges and everything, and what is the output of it, so that when I come off the ice, I can ask, my partner who I'm driving with, hey, what did you put out? And we can make sure, hey, if we're close to apples and what the output is. um, I just think for documenting of everything, I think it's a way, the computer system in general is just a lot better. But like everything else, technology changes. It seems like every year something new comes out, and I think that's the way kind of fast ice is like, we got the latest and greatest, and to see the changes, has been extraordinary. Just to see the control panel be a lot, for us fat finger people, a lot more friendlier that way. And just like I said, the whole control mechanism of everything, to me, I enjoy, because like I said, I watch it, and especially when building ice, it was always nice to see how many gallons have we put out so far, and this is how many gallons we have to go, and it was kind of like a countdown clock. So I think the biggest improvement, like I said, that I enjoy, it's just seeing the computer screen and just being able to just see it more digital, and being able to read everything of what the machine's doing itself. So I just find it very, very fascinating.
It's interesting. I joke about electronics that they are history once they get put into the box
Yeah.
that goes onto the shelf, that they're already outdated. So it's great to hear that you like the new display, and that's one of the changes. What do you think about one of the things I've looked at with the system in comparison to the V1 is the ease of getting, or easier getting, the spray bars on and off the machine, so that when you have to go to change a blade, the design that our lead engineer Julian Gardner on that made. Um, how do you find that to be helpful for you when working with the system?
I think in that case, it's one of those that if you're having to do it by yourself, yeah, it definitely makes it easier. Because if you're by yourself doing something, especially with the fast eye system, you need to be able to make it easy, so that you can tell somebody, hey, while you're working tonight, can you change a blade? This is how you disassemble, take off the fast eye system from the machine and the conditioner, and they can do it themselves. And so I think that's one of the biggest pluses, is how easier nowadays it is to get your hands in there to disassemble it, compared to reaching in and trying to find the lever to disassemble the old way. So, in that sense, yes, I think anything that's more friendly user, to where one person can take care of the machine, then I think that's the biggest plus you can have.
How do you feel that this and the level ice system, which you also have on your machines, impact your ability to make the ice that the NHL players expect and demand?
I I think I think it's made it a little bit easier, because like I said, now with the level ice, that if you run two machines at the same time, that you're cutting the same, And even if you're, running the machine in hand, you know that you're cutting the same no matter what, because, with not saying the wheel was never a bad design, but you turn your wheel down to cut more and then you come up. Yes, you could say, hey, I came up 2 turns, but was that 2 1/4 turns? Was that 2 3/4? And then you came down, 2 turns. So to say you went up or went down 2 turns, you don't know exactly where that blade was. But with the level ice, if you come up, one or two, you know exactly that it's going to go up or it's going to go down the exact same. So you can keep your ice pretty level after you've leveled it during the day to keep it level during the games, because you know that both machines, you can dial it in to where they cut, they're cutting the same amount and they're cutting pretty even. So that's the biggest plus that, like I said, whoever I'm driving with, at night when I do drive, that's the first thing we always ask each other is how much water did you put out and how much ice did you cut? And about every time we're pretty apples to apples on everything. So I think that's the biggest thing is with the new technology on the machine, you're able to keep everything at a pretty even flow when running the machines.
It sounds like you're telling us and our listeners that it makes it a lot more easy to be precise with where you are with your cut and your water flow. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Because like I said, I mean, during the day, Max will get the ice level and then, he'll tell us, at night, tell whoever's driving, per se to say, hey, I want you to cut it at this and let's see what that does. But it's not like you're throwing the ice off level. You still know that you're cutting, pretty even if you've got 2 machines out there, but let alone if you've got one machine, that machine's going to cut the exact same all the way around because you're not, it's computer. So whatever you set the blade to cut at, that's what it's going to cut at the whole time. So it's, pretty accurate and pretty on pinpoint. So
if you have different ice events in the building, let's say you've got Disney or you maybe have a figure skating event, what part does the fast ice system do to help create the needed ice conditions for different events, whether it be the hockey or figure skating or a skating show?
I think the biggest thing what it does is it allows you to control the amount of water that you need to put out. I think it helps you give a more accurate, of how much water you're putting out and what you need to put out compared to when you were doing tile floods. Yeah, you could say you put out a full tank of water, but you didn't really know kind of, okay, how hot's my water? How hot is the water? How much water am I putting out to build ice? Like for Disney on Ice and things like that, and the speed. I think the fast ice system, because when you're using a towel, you're putting direct water on the ice, and when you're using the fast ice system, you're spraying water on there at a nice, gradual, even pace. So you can, at that point, you can dictate how much ice you are putting down more to then going out there 10 times, putting a buttload of water, and then going, okay, how much did I just put out? When with the fast ice system, you know what you're putting out and how much you need to build.
So would it be safe to say that with the fast ice system, you're able to control the amount of water that's being dispersed evenly over the entire surface, where if you're using a towel flood and a standard water valve, that you might lay more water in corners and not as much in a straight where maybe you're going a little bit faster than what you want to do, and you've got
Right.
more control over it.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's what I have discovered with the fast ice, and asking Cody, Max, and some of the other drivers down there, that same thing. Like I feel like, do you have more control over it? Just, and from what I see when other people drive, it's like, yeah, you definitely have more control about your output of water, and as a driver, you can feel more comfortable knowing that, hey, yeah, I'm pretty even on putting not as much water in the corner, and then on the straightaways driving and turning everything on, and making it flow.
Have you noticed personally any difference in changes in the ice quality or the denseness of the ice, meaning how hard it is because it's setting up faster by using the fast ice product?
Because I still work at other rinks around town, and one of the machines is still a towel driven machine, and then using the fast ice system. Yeah, I mean, I notice a difference, because like I said, with a towel, you're more slamming water on the ice compared to just spraying water on the ice. So, it does make it, one, easier to set up, and two, I like the fast ice system because I feel like it fills in ruts a lot better too. Because that's the main goal is, with ice, you want it hard, you want it fast. So that fast ice system is a great way to have ruts filled in because you're not sloshing water into the rut itself. Yeah, you still have your wash water that's, going to wash the snow out, but then you don't have, the towel that's just going to drag water on top. You've got something that's just going to lay a nice even spray. And so over the years being down there, that's what I've noticed is that, yeah, it helps lay a nice even surface out on the ice.
How does the fast ice system help when installing your ice sheet? And a follow-up question that's going to be having you talk a little bit about the video that you made. But have you found it to be easier to build your ice surface using the fast ice system over the standard towel flood?
Yes, I have. Like for instance, this year, when I would come in at nights and basically just flood and drive in circles, Max is being, hey, we're going to go at a 70% flow rate so that, one, we're not making the ice crack. Two, we're not going to destroy paint. And so then you get a nice flow rate. And so the biggest thing I think is, you can just send one guy out there to drive in circles and flood the ice. And like I said, when you get to a certain point in your ice depth, then you can go, okay, now I can bump it up to 100% and then put out more water, speed it up a little bit. But yeah, I have found that doing it this way, I think does it take a little bit longer? Yes, but I'd rather have quality over, how fast we can get it down and have a full sheet of ice. So I like the system that's in place where it's just, hey, we're going to take our time and we're going to flood every night. And having the fast ice system, I think, makes that very easy because, like I said, I can come in and I can leave a note, and say, hey, this is how many gallons of water I put out. And then, whoever's coming in can figure out and go, okay, we need to put this many more gallons of water down, or, hey, what is our ice temps at right now? Let's figure out how much water we can put out right now. So, I usually leave all that kind of stuff to Max, and then he just tells me, hey, go out there and let's do this and then make it work. And hey, we got a great looking sheet this year. So
it sounds like it gives you the ability, as well as some of the operators, because everybody's going to be different, to
right.
be more consistent with the product that you're putting out there for your players.
Yeah, absolutely. But we all have the same goal. We want to make great ice for, a great team, and that's what we strive for. We strive to be the best, and we want to be the best. And so when you've got great equipment, you can be that way. So
great. Now let's touch a little bit about the video, because that's part of why we're talking today. Can you fill us in and the listeners about the video that you made and how it's gone viral?
So the video I originally shot was, I was at the arena one night and I was flooding, and to get my close friends that I have excited about hockey, I just was driving and took a shot, took a video to show the new Center Ice logo to them that the Stars had already posted. But driving, you can get a real close up of that Center Ice logo, and so I took that and shot it from behind and sent it to my friends. But then, I was part of one of the ice rink facility groups where it's just a bunch of operators from all over, the U.S. world that are SAM drivers just like me, and said, hey, the ice is ready at American Airlines Center. And everybody, saw it and was like, oh, is it the fast ice system? And I said, yes. And it went off from there. So, like I said, I'm enthused about hockey season, and so I wanted to get other people excited about hockey's back, and we've got ice, and we're ready to go. So.
You mentioned that you shared it with the mascot for the Dallas Stars, and that it kind of grew some legs from that. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about that process and how it expanded into other forms of social media?
Yeah, so I sent that to our mascot, and he asked me. He said, "Hey, do you mind if I put that on my Twitter account?" And I said, "Absolutely. That's fine. I just, like I said, I want people to get excited about hockey and the Stars." And he put it on his account as Victory Green, and put a song to it and edited it and made a great little video out of it. And NHL picked up on his video that he did, put music to it, and they put it on their TikTok account. So I thought it was just kind of cool because it was like my video just went on TikTok, and I don't even have TikTok, so it was he sent it to me, and I thought it was kind of cool. So.
Well, don't feel bad. I don't have a TikTok account either. And the only reason I kind of know about it is I have a granddaughter who has a TikTok account, and she's constantly posting dance videos. And I don't even get the concept of what TikTok's all about. So
yeah, I don't either.
All it means is that I'm old. I know you're not quite old enough to reach to the level that I am in age, but it's just something that it's fascinating how some things that are seemingly so simple, and what you start out to do with it turns into something much bigger, and how fast that can snowball.
Right.
We've got a podcast that we did with a gentleman by the name of David Clutho, who's a famed photographer, so that we can maybe dig into the depths that he goes. What kind of equipment did you use to film your now famous TikTok, Twitter, Facebook video that you did for the Dallas Stars ice install?
I used my iPhone is what I used. I turned it on video, and that's what I did is I used my iPhone to shoot that. So.
Well, maybe we can get Apple to kick you down some coin for producing and creating this video on your Apple iPhone.
Hey, if they want to give me a personal laptop, that'd be great.
Well, I'd say I'd reach out to somebody up there, but other than just being a general shareholder, I don't have any pull for that. But maybe if they see it enough. I mean, Theo Fleury, or was it Marc Andre Fleury, and was it Mark Stone maybe from the Vegas Knights got to do iPhone 10 video that was spinning around.
Yep. They got to do that iPhone commercial. So
I'm going to guess they didn't do that for free. I'm going to guess they got some kind of remuneration.
I bet they got something for it. Yes.
There you go.
Would not be surprised.
So Cody has gone pretty deep into the science of ice making, and we spent some time with him talking about that on a podcast with him earlier. Do you have similar experiences that you can share in regards to your aspect of the job, or is that something that you just are not delving into as deeply as he did?
No, I definitely wanted to dive in deeply with it. And, that's why I was, I'd say, hey, every year, hey, let me know when you want me to come in and, help out. I'm willing to work and, do whatever, just so I can see the whole process and learn the whole process. And so within the past couple of seasons, and including this season with Max, I was able to do it from start to finish pretty much, with going out there, sealing the floor, putting the white paint down, sealing the white paint, flooding the white paint, coming in, helping to do logos, seal in logos, flood logos, and then build ice on top of that. And so, as I'm doing this stuff, I'm asking Cody over the years, well, what do you set your temps at this? Why do you do this? What do you think about this? And we've changed the process a couple of years just because you learn from experience about different things. And I mean, it was the same way with Max. I think that's the biggest thing is when you have people who are very well educated in this business. I want to ask Max how he wants to do things, and maybe get a different perspective on ice building, and what he thinks works best, and take it from there. And just learn different ways and, pick these guys' brains about, well, you've done it this way. Well, why did you do it this way? And so getting feedback from Cody and Max on how they do ice building, it's just been great. Because it's a science, but it's also an art. You can't just go out there and say, hey, I'm just going to put some water out there and then be good to go. I mean, it is definitely a science, and it's still a science that, there's a lot of things I still need to learn, but I love to learn them and, just keep going that way. But but it's a fascinating process. And, I have people ask me, well, how does the ice get installed? And so when people do that, because I have a heart for, because I love doing what I'm doing, as a ice technician and a Zamboni driver, I just love spilling that passion to other people to maybe, one day they'll want to keep being a rink rat and go be a Zam driver as well. So, I just like talking about it with people because it's a passion of mine, and that's and then like I said, I mean that passion's been bestowed upon me for a lot of years now. So
it's something that I tell young folks when they're getting into deciding what it is that they want to do for a living. I go, you want to choose something that you can be passionate about.
Right.
Because you're going to spend a lot of time doing it. You might as well enjoy it. And it's very heartwarming to see somebody who has a desire to be the best at the craft that they're doing. And I call it a craft. It's an art. And the canvas that you're working with is that ice surface. And there are drivers and there are ice makers. And I would put you in the classification of being an ice maker, because it's not just driving a machine in circles. No. It's going out there and understanding what you need to do, making the adjustments from day to day. And you could have a situation down there where a monsoon comes in and all of a sudden your ice surface is going to change because of the outside weather and how it's impacting your building.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, I mean, we've all seen that before. I mean, down here in Texas, I mean, we get humidity, and don't think humidity doesn't affect a building. And when you got humidity outside, it's gonna affect your AC system as well, because you're gonna have to adjust the way you're putting out cold air, but then also with the ice too, to make sure that you adjust the plant to what you need, so that you still have good hard fast ice. So and that's the thing about the crew that we have down there is we all have a passion for it. So we all want it to be the best. We all want to do the best. And we want to make sure that, years before when it was Cody in charge, and now when it's, Max is in charge, we want them to look good, because, we want to put out a good sheet so that they look good. And, that's our ultimate goal, is to make sure that we put a good sheet out for the team and put out a good sheet. And I call it a successful night. Let alone to get a nice hockey win is always a plus.
There you go. Other than, I'm sure, you wanting to meet all the members of the 1980 U.S. gold medal winning hockey team that are still with us, who's be your biggest sports hero, and have you met them? And if not, who would you most like to meet?
Oh man, biggest sports hero. Man, there's quite a few. I mean, going from those legendary, back-to-back Cowboy Super Bowls, with Troy Aikman and the playmaker and Emmett. The one thing I wish I had gotten a chance to meet like Neil Broughton, because him being a North Star, him coming down here playing, would be, a dream of mine to meet him. I think, one thing I will say that's kind of cool about, there are a lot of players now from the Stars organization that, I watched when they were in their careers, and now I'm either coaching hockey next to them or, I'm working next to them. And it's just kind of cool to be fascinated with, man, I was idolizing, when you were playing, and now here I am. We're, just having a friendly conversation off the ice and having a good chat. So, there's a lot of sports heroes I'd love to meet. Obviously the great one. Growing up, I was a big Steve Yzerman fan. When you knew 19 was on the ice, I mean, it was, good things were going to happen. So, um, I mean, I would say growing up, probably one of my biggest fan, I was a big fan of was Darian Hatcher. I just loved it. He was a hard hitter, defenseman, didn't put up with anything, and I got to meet him numerous times and had his jerseys as a kid, and um, so I don't know, like biggest sports here. I don't know. I mean, there's so many. Um, like I said, from football to hockey. I mean, right now, I mean, like, when you play golf, I'd love to play golf with Jordan Spieth because, Jordan's a local guy, and I love watching him every weekend. So, you it's just one of those things. And I would say with hockey, I didn't really start playing hockey till I kind of was after high school, and I just started playing, men's league, and at that time Brendan Morrow was playing, and I liked his style of hockey with just being gritty in front of the net and grinding it out, and so that's why I started wearing number 10 when I started playing, adult hockey. I was a big Brendan Morrow fan. I just liked his style of play, and he was a great guy off the ice and on the ice, and so I just kind of
years ago, I got to meet him at a restaurant. I was at a board dinner for the ISI, and there was 3 or 4 of the stars that came in, and I didn't recognize them, obviously, not being a Dallas Stars fan, but was able to be introduced to him. And one of the guys that you might have got to see at the tail end of his career, I got to actually see at the very onset of his career, and he was a guy who could skate like the wind, and one of the few players in the NHL who would actually make his jersey ripple with how fast he was skating, Mike Modano. And,
absolutely.
Just an unbelievable player who grew up, and unfortunately, it took a little bit longer for him to understand what it took to win. But once he did, he knew what he had to sacrifice and what his body went through the year the Stars did win the Stanley Cup. Once he got that, he was the complete player, and he one of the best U.S. born players that's ever skated. Certainly not.
And yeah, I mean, everybody goes to that argument all the time, like, who's the greatest U.S. born player? And I'm like, okay, well, look, how about you go down your list and I'll go down my list, and
well, he's a Michigan kid, so I'm not quite sure I'm going to give him the same love that I'm going to give a guy like Neil Broughton or Mike Ramsey or some of the guys that played on that 1980 team, or some of the guys that grew up in Minnesota. And I've been lucky through my years of being in the industry of getting to meet a boatload of players. And what I found in NHL players and hockey players in general, for the most part, there's always going to be the knob or two in the world, but for the most part, the hockey players are pretty real. And maybe you go up to Wisconsin to near River Falls, where Neil's got his horse ranch, and you can get him to take you horseback riding and talk some puck.
Absolutely, I'd be down for that for sure. I mean, and that's what I tell people. As I said, hockey players are some of the nicest people and some of the greatest athletes you'll ever meet, because they are down to earth, and they are great guys to work with, and that just drives you even more to put out a quality sheet, because you want to make it good for them. And that's the other thing with driving too, is there are certain games and certain things that you remember about, said, oh, I drove the ice for that game. One of the guys we hired last season, he was driving his first game tonight, and I brought up the guy that I drove with, Brian Crawford, who's been down at the arena for years, and is a legend driver. I mean, this guy is very good at driving. And I was talking with him, and I said, I think one of the games that I remember the most is the game that you and I drove when Jamie Benn clinched the Art Ross Trophy, and we drove for that game. And so you kind of take pride in certain games like that, to say, I drove the machine, and I drove, it's guys like Crawford that he has passion just like I do to put out a good quality sheet, and remarkable guy on and off the ice. But because he'd been driving for so long and he had a lot of experience with fast ice before I got down there, he was one who also kind of taught me, hey, this is how it works, and this is, if you figure out your pattern this way with the spraying, yes, it is going to be different. So I give a lot of props to him as well with driving down there and just learning. So, but I mean, like I said, we've had guys down there that have been there since day one, when the team moved down here in '93, and just asking them questions about, hey, I see, yeah, you don't drive anymore, but what do you think about this? And when you work at a community rink for so long and then you move up to the big leagues, there's a world of change in how you make ice and what you do and how you do it and what everybody does to make sure that there's a quality sheet out there. And so you're just always asking everybody that's down there, hey, what do you do and how did you do it and what do you think about this? So we are a classy bunch down there. So,
well, it's interesting you talk about Neil Broughton being one of your faves, and I was lucky enough to get to see him play not only high school hockey for the Roseau Rams, but to see him play at the University of Minnesota and then with the North Stars. And I'm going to go out on a limb, and I know there's been a lot of great players in the NHL, but his hand-eye coordination as well as his vision of the ice, I think was only surpassed by Gretzky. And I got to see him play a lot of games, and the guy is very talented, and was happy to see him finally win a cup. I think he won a cup with Jersey. I don't know if that came at the expense of the Stars or not, but
yeah, because when he was down here in Dallas, he wasn't down here very long, and then he got traded.
And a great hockey family. Like when he played up at Roseau, it was him and his brothers Paul and Aaron, and also Butsy Erickson. And they formed one of the greatest high school teams that they didn't win, unfortunately, but they did beat Mike Ramsey's team in the consolation round when they lost in the first round in '78 was when Roosevelt was in the state high school hockey tournament. But I want to get on to, as we're getting towards the end of this, I want to get on to one of my favorite parts of the podcast, which is food. And if you saw my rotundness, you would understand why. My first question for you is going to be White Castle, yay or nay?
I've never had White Castle, so couldn't give you a yay or nay on that one.
You are missing out on a gourmet burger. We
have White Castle up there. We have Whataburger down here, so there's nothing like going through Whataburger and getting an old classic cheeseburger.
I've had those, and you got to have the full experience. Bar rush after closing a bar in downtown Minneapolis area of going in and seeing the clientele in a White Castle to give you the full flavor of it all. So you get up, Michigan, I believe, has some, or Chicago.
Yep, they do.
You travel around. You should really, really have that, but save it up after you've had a couple and maybe want to prevent that hangover, because it's a good cure or prevention for the hangover.
Yes.
What is your favorite food being down in Texas? Might it be barbecue, or do you have a different favorite?
Oh, Mexican. You got to go Mexican, and you got to go tacos. That is the ultimate street tacos, and
where's your go-to?
Oh man, there are a lot of places to get some good tacos around here. A bunch of them are just little hole in the wall joints to get tacos, but I don't have one particular place. I love El Phoenix. El Phoenix has been a long time establishment down here in Dallas, so I love El Phoenix Mexican food. It's fast service, but it's great food. So usually if I'm craving Mexican, I'm going there. So
always just to El Paso, and I've joked about it that I like the town so much that I would consider moving there because I could root for maybe the Arizona Cardinals, or I could root for the Houston Texans, anybody but that team with the star on the helmet.
America's team. America's team.
Alleged.
It's in writing. I mean, we've had our own video and everything. It's an America's team.
Yeah, but that's only because Jerry Jones says it's that way. That doesn't mean it necessarily America's team. I think the Raiders might argue with you about that, or a few other teams that are out
Patriots
there.
fans argue with us all the time about that.
There you go. I went to a place called Ambar, and it has a 2-story storage area for tequila, with shots as much as $5,000 a shot that I was told, which I didn't sample because I didn't want to put our business manager into cardiac arrest when I turn in that expense report. But they had some great carnitas tacos there, and I went to a couple other, Lucky Cafe, I think it was, and L&J Cafe down there, and the food was spectacular. So if you ever find the opportunity to get over to El Paso, I would highly recommend any of those places.
Absolutely.
Do you get to travel much at all, either in personal life or in any of your job opportunities?
Really nothing work related. I mean, I do construction full time, so I'm pretty much here locally when I do work, and if I travel, it's just for fun, and it's one of my favorite places to go to. I love Las Vegas. I don't know what it is about the town, what it is about the city. I just love going. It's just a fun place to go. I mean, whether you gamble or you don't gamble, there's something for you to do there. Whether you hang out at the hotel, at the pool, or you go see a show, it's just a fun town. So I'm actually going in December to go see my first Stars road game, first of the nights in December. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's going to be real fun.
Strongly recommend to you the Craft Steakhouse at the MGM. They've got incredible monkey bread with homemade ice cream as a dessert, so save room for that. But some of the best steaks I've ever had in my life have been at that restaurant.
Oh yeah, I booked a reservation for Hell's Kitchen there, so because I'm a big Gordon Ramsay fan, so I was like, gotta go to Hell's Kitchen while I'm out there. So
there you go. Best meal you've ever had?
Best meal is going to be a good T-bone steak with mashed potatoes and some zucchini. It's the best meal I could ever have.
Well, thank God you didn't say Brussels sprouts. Zucchini's bordering on that, but keep those nasty little balls of cabbage away.
No Brussels sprouts for me. No. I'm a steak guy, hand over fist, of whether it's a venison steak or a beef steak. I love steak.
There you go. Well, Cole, I want to thank you very much for your time today and sharing with us and our audience about your experiences at the American Airlines Center. And I'm not going to hold it against you that you're a Cowboys fan. There are quite a few people that are out there that are suffering of the same disease, and hopefully someday it'll be cured. But in my lifetime, I'd like to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl, and maybe Mr. Jones will be so kind as to trade a few talented players and many draft picks to the Vikings so that we can have that opportunity.
You'll have the option to pick up the linebacker we just released today, so maybe y'all can do that.
Well, if he's not good enough for Dallas, I'm sure he's good enough for the Vikings.
No, this has been an honor and a privilege that you guys chose me to do an interview, and hopefully spread my passion for doing this along with to other people out there. And
you keep spreading that out, and we'll keep spreading the word about you, and hopefully we'll get more people that are as passionate about their job and making ice as you are.
No, that'd be great.
We want to thank everyone for listening in to another episode of Ask the Zamboni Experts podcast. Have a question for one of our experts or an idea for a future episode, please email your questions or request to info@zamboni.com. For more information and additional podcast episodes, please visit zamboni.com/podcast or search Ask the Zamboni Experts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. This is Doug Peters wishing you an ice day.